The rain poured down on the streets of Victoria Island, Lagos, like heaven itself was weeping. Under the dim glow of a broken streetlight, a young man, drenched, bruised and bleeding, sat shivering on the cold pavement. His once perfect designer shirt was gone, his gold wristwatch gone, and his face swollen from the beating of the street boys who had just stripped him of everything. Only 2 days ago, he was the untouchable heir to billions, the only son of one of Africa's wealthiest men, the boy who could walk into any club and buy every bottle on the shelf without blinking. Now, he was broke, homeless, and alone. His friends had abandoned him. His father had disowned him. Even the girls who once fought for his attention laughed when they saw him. As he sat there, the world spinning around him, a soft, calm voice broke through the rain. "Daniel!" He looked up, squinting through the downpour, and there she was. The girl he once insulted, the one who had rejected his arrogant advances, standing over him with an umbrella in her hand. Her eyes were full of pity, but also something else. What happened next would change Daniel Okafor's life forever. And if you think you've heard this kind of story before, trust me, you haven't. Before I tell you the unbelievable twist that will leave you speechless, make sure you subscribe to African Folktales with Onye and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the rest of this jaw-dropping story. In the heart of Lekki Phase 1, Lagos, stood a mansion so massive it could easily be mistaken for a luxury hotel. Armed security men patrolled the gates, gardeners trimmed perfectly shaped hedges, and the scent of freshly baked bread floated from the kitchen. This was the home of Mr. Anthony Okafor, a billionaire tycoon who owned the largest automobile company in Africa and the biggest shipping empire on the continent. Inside, his 24-year-old son Daniel Okafor leaned lazily on a white leather couch, scrolling through his phone. He was tall, handsome, and annoyingly confident, the kind of guy who never had to work for anything in life. Still in his final year at Kingsworth University, Daniel's only source of income was his father's wealth, and oh, he spent it without a care. His 3 closest friends, Michael Eze, a flashy talker with a weakness for gold chains, Chris Obi, the smooth operator who changed girlfriends more often than clothes, and Richard Mwoko, the life of the party and king of expensive champagne, were sprawled around the living room, planning their next big night out. "Bro, we need to hit Club Eclipse tonight," Michael grinned, twirling his car keys. Daniel smirked. "How much damage are we talking?" Chris laughed. "Small thing now. Just a few million naira for drinks, maybe book the VIP suite, get some hot chicks, and Daniel, you're covering it." "Of course," Daniel said, waving a hand like money was dust. Women, luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and endless parties, that was their lifestyle. But behind Daniel's smile was a boy who hadn't been the same since his mother died. Back then, life was different. Back then, there was still warmth in this mansion. And as the sun set over Lagos that evening, Daniel had no idea that his reckless enjoyment was leading him straight into the storm of his life. Before the parties, before the gambling, before the women, Daniel was different. When his mother, Margaret Okafor, was alive, the Okafor mansion wasn't just big, it was warm. She had a laugh that could fill the whole house, and she never failed to make time for her son, even when her husband was halfway across the world signing billion-dollar deals. Daniel remembered the Sunday mornings when she'd wake him up with the smell of pancakes.
"Daniel," she'd call from the kitchen, her voice singing, "if you don't come now, I'll eat your share." He'd run down in his pajamas, pretending to be angry. "Mummy, that's not fair." She'd laugh and ruffle his hair. "Life is not fair, my dear, but you'll be fine." That was their life. Laughter, little jokes, and late-night talks where she'd tell him stories of her childhood in Enugu. She was his best friend, his anchor. Then came the sickness. Cancer. At first, Daniel thought it was just flu. She smiled through it, still cooking, still telling stories. But soon, hospital visits became more frequent. His father paid for the best treatments, but was hardly ever there, always sending a representative with flowers and a check. One night at St. Nicholas Hospital, Daniel sat by her bed, holding her hand. "Mummy, you'll get better," he said, forcing a smile. "I will, my son. But if I don't, promise me you'll live a good life." "You're not going anywhere," Daniel replied, blinking back tears. "Go home and rest, my dear. Tomorrow you'll see me stronger." The next morning he walked into her room with fresh fruit and a smile, only to find her bed empty. The nurse didn't have to speak. The look on her face said it all. A week later, under the rain at her grave in Ikoyi Cemetery, Daniel whispered, "I'll never forgive him for leaving you alone." From that moment, the boy who once loved family became the man who only loved pleasure as the years went by. At Kingsworth University, everyone knew Daniel Okafor. Some called him the Prince of Leyte. Others called him Mr. Money No Day Finish. Whatever the nickname, one thing was certain. Daniel lived louder than anyone on campus. Lectures? Optional. Assignments? Forget about it. But if you were looking for the biggest table at Club Eclipse, dripping in champagne bottles and surrounded by the prettiest girls, Daniel was your man. One Thursday night, he rolled up to the club in his brand-new Mercedes G-Wagon. Michael, Chris, and Richard following in their own flashy rides. Inside the club, the DJ shouted into the mic, "Shout out to my big spender, Mr. Money No Day Finish, Money Na Water, the 001 himself, Daniel Okafor." The crowd erupted in cheers. "Let's make it rain tonight," Daniel yelled, throwing wads of cash into the air. Michael grinned. "Daniel, I swear, your Lagos is ATM." Richard added, "And the pin is always 000, open to everybody." They all roared with laughter. Daniel's womanizing was legendary. That week alone, he had been with Sandra Nwafor, a law student who loved expensive handbags, Linda Emeze, a business major who couldn't resist a trip to Dubai, and Chidimba Anosike, a political science queen with eyes only for men with deep pockets. After each conquest, the story was the same. "You're amazing, Daniel." He smirked. "Yeah, but I'm busy now." "Busy with who?" He shrugged. "Life." And that was the end. Gambling was another thrill. At a private yacht party in Banana Island, Daniel tossed his Rolex onto the poker table. "You're sure about that, bro?" a gambler named Tunde asked. "Money comes, money goes," Daniel replied with a grin. Minutes later, the watch was gone, and so was 2 million naira. He didn't care. At least, not yet. What Daniel didn't know was that while he drowned himself in pleasure, someone in his own home was already plotting his downfall.
Daniel had just come back from another exhausting night of drinking and gambling when he noticed something different in the mansion. The air felt staged. The maids were unusually cheerful. The dining table was set like it was Christmas, and his father, Mr. Anthony Okafor, was sitting at the head of the table with a wide smile. "Daniel," his father said, motioning for him to sit, "I want you to meet someone." From the kitchen doorway she appeared, Victoria Anoji, mid-30s, glowing skin, body wrapped in a perfectly tailored designer red dress, a smile so warm it could melt ice. "This is your new mother," Anthony said, beaming. "We got married last weekend." Daniel blinked. New mother? Victoria laughed softly, stepping forward to shake his hand. "Call me Victoria," she said, her perfume filling the air. "Or Mum, if you like." But something about her eyes made Daniel's stomach twist. There was a sharpness behind that smile, a glint that didn't match her soft tone. Over the next few weeks, Victoria played her role perfectly. To outsiders, she was the loving young wife who brought Anthony home-cooked meals and cared for him like a queen. But when they were alone, Daniel noticed her subtle digs. One evening, as Anthony sipped tea in the living room, Victoria leaned close and whispered just loud enough for him to hear. "Anthony, I saw Daniel stumbling in drunk again. You really should talk to him before he ruins the family name." At first, Anthony brushed it off, but the seed had been planted. What Daniel didn't know was that at night, while Anthony was asleep, Victoria was texting a man named Kelvin Ume, her secret boyfriend. "Baby, just wait. Soon the old man's empire will be ours," she typed. Kelvin replied, "Hurry up, I'm tired of waiting." Daniel thought he was untouchable, but Victoria was already drawing the net tighter. Kingsworth University had been patient with Daniel for too long. His father was one of the school's biggest benefactors. New lecture halls, a sports complex, and even a scholarship program bore the Okafor name. But even money couldn't hide his poor attendance, failing grades, and constant clashes with lecturers. One hot Tuesday afternoon, Daniel finally showed up for a lecture. Professor Olumide paused mid-sentence. "Well, well, look who decided to join us," the professor said dryly. Daniel smirked. "I was busy, sir." "Busy? This is your final year. Do you think your father's money will write your exams for you?" The class chuckled. Daniel's face hardened. "With all due respect, Professor, I'll be fine either way." "Get out of my class," Olumide snapped. "When you're ready to take your future seriously, you may return." Word reached Dr. Ibrahim, the vice-chancellor, who was a close friend of Mr. Okafor. Instead of expelling Daniel outright, he decided to speak to Anthony privately. That evening at the mansion, Anthony's voice was thunder. "Daniel, do you think I worked my whole life for you to embarrass me like this?" Daniel leaned back in his chair. "You were never around to teach me anything else." Anthony's jaw tightened. "That's not an excuse to waste your life." In the corner, Victoria stirred her tea slowly, pretending not to listen. But later, in their bedroom, she whispered to Anthony, "You know, maybe Daniel is beyond saving. He's reckless, spoiled. Maybe you should protect your wealth before he destroys it." Anthony sighed heavily. "He's still my son." Victoria smiled sweetly. "Of course, for now." It was only a matter of time before her plan moved from whispers to action. 2 weeks later, Victoria's plan quietly unfolded. Daniel had been spending more evenings at an upscale club in Lekki called the Blue Mirage, a hotspot known for its lively crowd and high-stakes drama. What Daniel didn't suspect was that Kelvin, the bartender, and, unknown to Daniel, Victoria's secret boyfriend and stepmother's ally, had arranged for some dangerous visitors to show up, 4 cult guys with a score to settle. That night, as Daniel laughed with his closest friends, Michael Eze, a flashy talker sporting gold chains, Chris Obi, the smooth operator who swapped girlfriends more often than shirts, and Richard Nwoko, the life of the party and king of expensive champagne. A tense energy crept into the room. Suddenly, the leader of the cult gang stepped forward, eyes cold. "Daniel, you slept with my girl," he accused, voice low but deadly. "What?" Daniel scoffed, caught off guard. The argument spiraled fast. The cult guys pulled out guns, their weapons gleaming under the club's neon lights. Daniel's friends didn't back down. Michael flashed his own piece. Chris and Richard reached for theirs. The club erupted into chaos. Kelvin stood behind the bar, calm and collected, recording every heated moment on his phone. By the next morning, the video landed in Victoria's hands, and moments later in Anthony Okafor's inbox. That same morning, in the quiet living room, Victoria sat close to Anthony, her eyes steady and serious. "Your son is no longer just reckless," she said quietly but firmly. "He's moved in with hoodlums and armed gangs. You need to be a man and set boundaries. Punish him now, before it's too late. If you don't, anything that happens because of this life will be your fault. After all, you're the one funding his dangerous habits." Anthony's fury was immediate and fierce. Victoria reached out and held Anthony's hands lightly. "You must act, Anthony, not as a benefactor, not as a father, but as a man protecting everything he's built." He said nothing for a long moment. Then, rising slowly, his voice cracked with barely restrained anger. "Call him. Tell him to come home. We're settling this today." By afternoon, Daniel swaggered into the mansion, sunglasses masking bloodshot eyes and a brewing storm. Anthony wasted no time. "You've been reckless, womanizing all over town, splashing money you didn't earn, failing university with terrible grades, and now moving with a gang. You're useless." Daniel's eyes flared. "You left my mother to die battling cancer while you traveled the world enjoying yourself. Then you remarried one of your mistresses. Don't blame me for how I turned out." Anthony's jaw tightened, his heart breaking as the words hit him like a blow. His blood pressure rose. He struggled for breath, searching desperately for a seat. "You're a blind old man and a fool," Daniel spat. Anthony's anger boiled over. "Yes, I have been a fool for entertaining your stupidity and arrogance all this time." He looked Daniel straight in the eyes. "No more. Effective immediately. All your assets and accounts are frozen. Your cars are seized and the staff will no longer attend to you. Get out of my house and never return unless you change your ways and graduate with good grades." Daniel's chest heaved as security men appeared, escorting him towards the gates. The heavy compound gate slammed shut behind him with a metallic thud that echoed in his ears. His sleek Mercedes, the one he thought was his, was gone, reclaimed by the family driver. Now Daniel stood on Banana Island's quiet street with nothing but the clothes on his back, a dead phone, and a wallet that felt disturbingly light. From the balcony, Victoria sipped chilled pineapple juice, a satisfied smile playing on her lips as she watched the whole scene unfold.
When the mansion gates shut behind him, the sound felt final, a metallic click that hollowed out the world. Daniel walked without direction, the sleek streets of Banana Island giving way to rougher roads as the night swallowed him. His head throbbed from the wine, his chest pulsed with a hot anger he didn't know how to channel. Pulling out his nearly dead phone, Daniel scrolled to Michael Ez's number and pressed call. After a few rings, Michael's flashy voice answered. "Mike, it's me. I'm out. Dad kicked me out of the house. I have nothing left. Can you help me? Maybe I can stay with you. Or loan me some money. I'll pay you back quickly." There was a pause, then a laugh. "Man, Daniel, are you serious? How do you expect to stay with me? My place is full, and you don't know how to hustle. Plus, I don't have a dime myself. I just paid rent last week. Next, Daniel dialed Chris Obi. His smooth voice came through, but colder this time. Chris, it's Daniel. Dad threw me out. I have nothing, no place, no money. Please, can I stay with you for a while? Chris sighed. Bro, it's tough. My girlfriend has been upset since last week. Plus, I don't have any money either. Business is slow, you understand. Finally, he called Richard Nwoko. The life of the party was quiet for a moment before answering. Richard, my friend, this is desperate. Dad cut me off. I have nothing at all. I need some help. Richard's voice was almost dismissive. Daniel, I'm barely surviving myself. The champagne hasn't been flowing this week. I don't have any money for you, man. The calls left Daniel colder than the rain beginning to fall. Friends who once laughed by his side and shared dreams now offered only excuses, their voices distant and their words weighed down by selfishness. The cars that had once followed him all summer vanished, leaving him to face the cold truth of life alone. He wandered past the lit kiosks of Obalende, past clusters of men playing dice, until the neon glow of his small roadside shop drew him to a rickety bench. It was a bench that had held tired night shift drivers and wandering souls before him. Tonight, it would hold him too. He curled into himself, and for the first time in his life, he didn't have the energy to hide the shame. Suddenly, a voice broke through the night, rough and challenging. Who be this person wey come for our hood dey sleep? Dem born you well at all? Daniel woke up, shocked. Fine boy, you dey whine us? Show us love now. One voice rang out, mocking. Chia, fine boy, see as your skin's smooth. Another jeered with a mix of awe and mockery. Wait oh, no be gold watch this guy wear. And that gold chain wey dey him neck. Omo, you be big boy oh. Pass am over to us, sharp sharp. Their leader stepped forward, eyes fixed on Daniel's phone. Bro lap, I won't see that your phone. Daniel tried to hide it behind him. Another said, you dey try hide am? You know hear wetin Capone talk? Daniel blinked, realizing the danger. Please, I don't want any trouble. I'm just trying to rest, he said firmly, clutching his iPhone 16 Pro Max tighter. But as he tried dragging the phone with them, they beat him savagely, tearing off the little he had left, the cash, his gold watch, his gold chain, even his clothes, leaving him just in his underwear, almost lifeless on the streets at midnight with the rain falling hard. Daniel was now at the crossroads between worlds. Would he survive, or would he pass on? The choice was now up to fate. If you've made it this far, you're part of something bigger, but the truth is still hidden. Subscribe to African Folktales with Oni and hit the notification bell to unlock part 2, where secrets unravel and nothing is as it seems. Drop a comment if you dare to guess what's next, but beware, some truths change everything.